Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all.
Good evening, welcome to His Grace Enough. Today we will deal with Jude chapter 1 verse 4. Let me read to you Jude chapter 1 verse 4. For certain men whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. They are godless men who changed the grace of our God into license for immorality and deny Jesus Christ, our only sovereign and Lord. Now many people have actually used these words to actually say that grace preachers or people who believe in the gospel of radical grace, that they have turned the grace message into a license to sin. Now they say these men, including yours truly, whose condemnation is actually written long ago, have slipped into the church and therefore turned the gospel of God by introducing this gospel of grace and therefore giving Christians the license to sin. I don't think that is the right way of looking into the verse, simply because they do not understand what the verse is actually talking about. Now, many people may realize this or may not realize this, but the gospel, the epistles rather, in the New Testament are not written in English. They are written in Greek. Therefore, for us to really understand what this really means, we have to study the Greek. Let me read to you the Message version of this particular scripture. The Message Bible is actually written by Eugene Peterson, who is a scholar both in Greek and Hebrew. Listen to what he says. Dear friends, I've dropped everything to write you about this life of salvation that we have in common. I have to write insisting, begging you to fight with everything that you have in you for this faith entrusted to you as a gift to God and cherish. What has happened is that some people have infiltrated our ranks. Our scriptures warn us that this would happen, who beneath their pious skin are shameless scoundrels. Now they have a form of piety, they have a form of religiousness, but they're actually scoundrels. Why? Their design, their purpose is this: to replace the sheer grace of our God with sheer license, which means doing away with Jesus Christ, our one and only Master. In other words, the word here, turn the grace of God into license to immorality, is this word, replace. The word turn in Greek is this word, metatithemi. Metatithemi. If you read the Thayer's definition, it says this: to transpose. Two things, one of which is placed in place of the other. In other words, what happens is that I take one thing and I transpose it to another. This simply means I take one thing and I replace it with another. Now, in other words, what Paul is actually saying is this: turning the grace of God into license simply means taking grace out, putting something into the place of grace, and then what you have is license for immorality. In other words, what happens is grace is the thing that stops immorality from growing. But if you take away grace, then immorality is there. So in other words, what Paul is actually saying is that if we take the grace of God out from the gospel, which many of us are doing, what you have is a license for immorality. Now take note, this is what it means. I'm about to be transposed.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and as you can see, Simon has been transposed. What it actually means is that when you take one thing and replace it with another, then it totally changes. So when you take grace out of the gospel and replace it with mixture, that gives people the license to sin. So therefore, for people to stop sinning, we actually need the grace of God in the message, and that takes out the license to sin. So what this means is that the grace of God is actually the antidote to sin. Peace.